Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Good to see you.
I wish it was happier.
We've had a lot happen.
Have a lot happen recently that doesn't. First of all, apologies to last night. I know many of you reached out to me. We just had some tech issues last night with sound, audio, and so I know as gratifying as it is to just look at me for an hour.
Yeah, just tune in and
without any audio
and watch
is enough. I get it; it's enough.
It's more than enough, Pastor.
But
it's more than enough.
We also know that some of you actually wanted to hear a little bit about Ezekiel, so we apologize for that. We are working on that and should not be an issue next Wednesday, or not next week, but in 2 weeks.
Next Bible study.
And just so you know, we covered chapter 18 up through 37 because there's a lot of overview. So if you would like those notes because you couldn't hear it, I'm more than happy to send you my notes, and there's nothing fancy about them. I just make an outline, and maybe not a ton of insight, but just that's what I work off of. So I'm more than happy to send that out to you. But we will, just as it looks like it's going to time out, we will finish Ezekiel in 2 weeks and actually jump into Daniel. So, and that will have a little bit more. I guess it'd be as narratives go. There's much more narrative in that, so that it'll be an interesting story.
Yes, there is. Yes, so, Ezekiel's quite an extensive book. There's a lot in there, but
yep. So so we've gone to in the places where you don't need to read everything. We skim and say, here's what this chapter is about, and here's what it means. And we did a lot of that last night. But we will finish off Ezekiel and jump into Daniel and the stories of Daniel having a special diet and Daniel defying Nebuchadnezzar
Daniel
and
as well.
All sorts of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and all that kind of stuff. So we got a lot of that to cover. But just really want to process for a moment what happened yesterday in Minneapolis. I just need to talk about this for a little bit. And if that's something you don't want to hear, I'm just going to tell you to turn off the broadcast because that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. And, there is, any way you slice it, no one should have lost their life yesterday.
It's just, it's tragic anytime you hear about a loss of life and seeing what happens there, and it's heartbreaking.
And as a church that stands for, in the first part of a mission statement, being real, it's about being genuine. I really have a great dislike for the Snow job of being honest about what happened. I see it on the news. I see it reported that way in some sectors, and it really is disgusting that you just can't own that maybe something bad happened and it shouldn't have happened, period. That mistakes were made. Just so you know, her name was Renee Good, and she was a single mom, and one of her children, the father had died previously. Now this child has no parents living. One of her other relationships, ex-husband, not the one who passed, obviously, said this today, being reported. Renee was not an activist. She was in that area because that's where she had just dropped her 6-year-old off at school, and she was a devoted Christian and stay-at-home mom.
Wow. No.
So any of this junk about brainwashed and, wanting to be a martyr or is just garbage. And you might, and so I'm willing to be the devil's advocate here, to go the other side. Maybe she didn't do something she was supposed to do. Does not justify shooting. Yeah. Just so you know, if that's the kind of tact and argument you want to make, just so you know, the 5th and the 14th Amendments were broken in our U.S. Constitution, which requires fair treatment whenever the government threatens life, liberty, or property. It applies to everyone in the U.S. and not just citizens, and that was reaffirmed by the Supreme Court in April of 2025. So even if she made a mistake, the response broke the Fifth and 14th Amendment, as well as the Eighth Amendment of our Constitution that says it is prohibited that there would be any cruel and unusual punishment related to any specific infraction or criminality, and that was ratified in 1791. So the response, any way you slice it, broke 3 of our constitutional amendments. And so I'm at a loss for trying to sell a narrative, especially because it was filmed, and then to not want to share the investigation with more than one law enforcement agency so as if to control the narrative. Why wouldn't you want more people involved to get to the bottom of this? Yeah, it's really gross. And I just wanted you to know that obviously this weighs heavy.
It does weigh heavy, yeah.
There's kids without a mom now.
Yeah.
And then to think that somehow this person was some sort of nut job trying to sow chaos and disorder. There were stuffed animals in the car, folks, for kids. You couldn't just take down a license plate and say you shouldn't have driven away. No, we couldn't do that. So we gotta lift up that family in prayer. We've been lifting more than one family in prayer because of tragedies here within our congregation
it's so
too.
true, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's just not. It's beyond the pale, and really, really disgusting. And so I know we're 1,800 miles away, but certainly we can lift that family up in prayer and provide comfort, spiritual comfort, and ask for God to come around them and to be with them in this moment. And like I said, even if she didn't react properly, the response is so heavy-handed and so over the top that is just worse, right? And I just don't get why. I guess I do know why, but it makes me sick that somehow we have to paint a narrative to extremism to somehow make a story work or seem like it's justified. Mm-hmm. It's not justified. Taking a life is not justified. And it's gross. So like I said, if that bugs you, then I want you to search your heart a little bit, because this shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
It is awful.
It is awful. So, I guess, in some ways my heart is heavy watching this and hearing about it and reading about it. And I guess part of my frustration, Pastor Brian, is I'm frustrated because I have no power. I'm powerless.
It's one of those things where, the lack, and yet Christ says when we all come together, there is power. And so to be honest, to name what we're feeling and to be able to share that with one another, that was one of the promises of Christ, to say that there is strength, but we don't just say, oh, there's another broken moment, let's just sweep it under the rug and just, I guess, plow ahead and whatever this world is.
And pretend it's not there.
We name it, and we come together, we pray together, and Christ promises to be there.
Yep.
And
that's what we're asking for that comfort that comes from above, because we can't give it directly because we're here. But we ask for God to come around that whole family and that situation, and not only bring comfort, but also bring the truth to light. The lightness has come into the world, and the darkness has not overcome it. We hold to that, as well as later in that same chapter, Jesus talking about that those who are not afraid of the light come into it, but those who don't want the light exposed on anything, hide. And we just want the light of the truth and the light of love to shine on this whole thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard. But I just feel like ignoring all of this it wouldn't set well with me.
Yeah.
And, gotta throw it out there. In other things, we have another celebration of life this coming Saturday.
Yeah. So we have Dr. Ted Twesme.
Yep. Somebody said to me that he probably pulled most of the wisdom teeth of everybody in the Southeast Valley for about in a 30-year span. So.
I know he did quite a few.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
And a longtime member here as well.
Yeah, a longtime member here, and I guess one of the top 1% of oral surgeons nationally.
How about that?
Yeah.
And I was talking to, visiting with his daughter, and she was reminiscing about being confirmed and going through a youth group here, and she said to me, we're not, we're still Lutheran, but now that I'm grown up and have a family of my own, we need to find a place for our child. And I said, you can always come back here. Yeah. And it's the same church that you grew up in.
Yeah.
So we want to not only minister to those who are grieving, but just also there's always opportunity.
Yeah.
To invite, even in a loss, and we want to be that church and be those people to do that. So we got one more Christmas song. And I know Christmas is over. Notice
we've completed the 12 days.
There's no tree behind me. Go, you flip. Yes, notice it's empty
yes.
now. Matter of fact, I had multiple people last night in the room in Bible study say, I saw you trying to block the Christmas tree on Tuesday. I was like, I guess more people were watching than I thought they were, because I had multiple people say, nice job trying to block the Christmas tree. But yes, Christmas is over. We're in the season of Epiphany and the Sundays after Epiphany, but we had such a beautiful offering of Christmas music as we finished off the season on Sunday that we just wanted to revisit this song. And there's lots of great themes to talk about outside of Christmas, too. So with that, let's turn our hearts to O Little Town of Bethlehem.
All right.
O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the the wondrous gift is given. So God imparts to human hearts the blessings of his heaven. No ear may hear his coming, but in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. Oh, holy child of Bethlehem, descend on us, we pray. Cast out our sin and enter in. Be born in us today. We hear the Christmas angels, the great glad tidings tell. Oh, come to us, abide with us, our Lord,
O Little Town at Bethlehem,
Yes, a favorite.
but a Keith Thompson arrangement,
Yeah, how cool is that?
right?
So,
And I think a while ago we talked about this hymn here because some of the story was like, oh, I kind of remember some of this. So, but it's probably been a while since we talked about it. So this was written in 1868 by a Anglican priest. They were called priests in that denomination. His name is Philip Brooks, and it's interesting. This is a worldwide hymn sung everywhere, but here in the United States, it is sung, that tune you heard. The tunes, I don't know if you know this, but in hymnody, the hymn name and the tune name are different. The tune is absolutely separate from the hymn.
okay.
And so each hymn also has a tune name. And so, and believe it or not, that if you know how to read music and you know the meter of a song, you can actually match different hymns with different hymn tunes that have the same meter, and they'll sing.
And they'll sing. So if you know one tune a little bit better, you can find it that match with
Correct.
some new words.
So the tune to the one that we sing that you just heard is a tune called St. Louis. However, in the United Kingdom, in England, it is actually, they sing O Little Town of Bethlehem to the tune called Forest Green. And maybe not familiar by name or even paired with O Little Town of Bethlehem, but it is a somewhat familiar hymn tune.
Okay.
I was curious, so I pulled it up on my computer for a screen. I was like, oh, yeah, I know that, you know. So so depending on, so if you ever go and have Christmas in England and you're like, oh, goody, O Little Town of Bethlehem, be prepared for
That's
a
interesting.
different tune.
Yeah, for
right?
a different tune.
Yep. So it was not written as a hymn. It was written as a poem because Brooks in 1865 had traveled to the Holy Land. He visited Bethlehem. It had a profound effect on his faith. And he was, in 1865, saw the peaceful, humble, and very calm atmosphere around Bethlehem.
I can't imagine what it would look like back in 1865 there. I mean,
very,
just-
very probably rustic and
Yeah.
basic. Some of the churches obviously would be there, but the rest of it, and I can't help but mention this was back prior to British rule in Palestine, because it was Palestine back then. It was under the Ottoman Empire, and guess what? Everybody was living peacefully together. Muslim or Islamic folks and Christians and Jewish folks. No holy wars, no fighting. Everybody just living peaceably together. And so he picked up on that coming to Bethlehem and not seeing, a wall,
Some of the stuff
not
that's-
seeing stuff called the West Bank. And we've talked about this. This all originated when British rule decided that every religion should live separately and not the way they had been for centuries, living
Yeah.
mixed and together, and that only escalated tensions and suspicions, and then you get into wars and intifadas and all sorts of stuff. So back then, when the Ottomans were ruling, not that they were perfect, guess what? Bethlehem was
It was
peaceful.
a
and-
peaceful little town.
yeah, peaceful little town. So he'd been the rector, that is the pastor of the church in Philadelphia, and so he wrote this poem after he got back, and he wanted it to be a part of the Christmas service in 1868, and read as a reflection, as a poem, and he wanted to focus on, as you know, themes of peace, humility, and hope, and then he asked his resident, musician. It's like, maybe we should put this to music.
Yeah.
And so
That's interesting, yeah.
So he went to his musician. His name was Redner, because that's who wrote this. And it was getting close to Christmas, and he kind of rings him up, and he's like, "Hey, have you written this thing yet for this poem? Like, are you got it done yet? Time's a ticking away. We got to get this thing done." And Redner said, "No," he said, "but I'll get it. I'll have it done by Sunday. I'll have it done by Sunday." So he said that on Saturday night before worship, his brain was kind of in overdrive. He was trying to figure it out. He was trying to force the creativity, which never works, by the way.
Right.
And he falls asleep, and he is roused from his sleep, hearing this, what he calls an angel strain of music whispering in his ear. And he wakes up, seizes a piece of music, jots down the treble clef line of the hymn, and had the basic outline of the song. And on Sunday morning, he, before going to church, he did all the harmonies to it. And Redner reflects that he and Father Brooks never thought that this poem turned to hymn or song would ever live beyond the Christmas of 1868.
It was just for that moment.
For
right
that
there.
moment, a little bit of creativity, I wrote this, let's put it together, you put your chocolate in my peanut butter, and wow, we have a Reese's peanut butter cup, right?
Yep.
And they thought that would be the end of it. And lo and behold, it is a classic.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. There are lines in this hymn that maybe they resonate with you too, but I pulled out 3 lines from this hymn that resonate with me, that I think are outside of Christmas in general. First of all, the hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Such a powerful line.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that line. And you know what? It makes me think, and we forget, at least I forget, is we come to Christmas, or we eagerly await the return of the King. And when that happens, we are invited to bring everything to him. Not just, look, I was a good person. See, don't look at that. I was mostly good, but ignore that. Like this hymn invites us, and it's a theological reality, that to meet Christ is to bring our hopes and our fears, to bring the good stuff and the stuff that we've struggled with, that he wants to receive it all.
Yeah.
And I love
honest
that,
with
because
them, yeah,
that
bring it all
speaks to the inclusivity of God, and not to a God who is all about performance or performance-based. How good were you? Did you check all the boxes? That God's like, come as you are, bring the good stuff and all the stuff in your junk drawer. Just
Yep.
bring it all.
Just bring it all.
And I'm reminded of that in that moment in Jesus' ministry in a different way. Remember when Jesus and the disciples had been on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Jesus said, I'm going to stay a little bit longer and pray and just kind of recoup. And you guys go back, and they start heading back. And there's some headwinds, and
Getting a
things are moving
storm.
slow. And this isn't the one where he falls asleep in the boat, but they're not making much progress. And they're trying to row against the waves. And Jesus, being God incarnate, decides to just meet up with the guys.
Yeah, right? Just walk on out there.
I'm just gonna go catch up with the guys. And so Jesus, being God, can do what God wants. And he walks across the Sea of Galilee, and so there's waves, and it's dark, and it's nerve-wracking. They see Jesus, and of course, I don't know about you, but I'm in the same situation. I'm thinking ghost, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like, who else is walking on water, right?
Yeah, you don't see that all the time.
Or floating across the top of the water, right? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And they cried out in fear, which of course, holy crikeys, whatever this thing is coming straight towards us, and he's going to get us. We cannot row our way out of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not looking great.
Not looking good. And Jesus speaks up in that moment, and he says, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Now you say, okay, let's pair those two things together. Imagine when we all meet Jesus face to face, and at different times, in our passing, or he comes back, and we all gather at church and wait for him because we hear he's coming, right? However that plays out. If there's some uncertainty because of maybe we didn't live life perfectly, which we haven't, imagine Jesus seeing us because he knows us, and he just says, like, take heart, it's okay.
It's okay.
Do not be afraid. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just, he wants to put us at ease. And that is the gospel of grace, the gospel of love, and that God doesn't hold those things against us when we open our hearts to be genuine and not try to hide things or whitewash things, that we are honest. He accepts that, and he says, take heart, do not be afraid. Mm-hmm. And so I think about that. Now, that other line another line, where it is this, where meek souls will receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. Where meek souls receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. So we talked a little bit about this using the word humility this past Sunday.
Yeah.
That, mercy flows to us when there is some degree of humility in our lives, and that isn't necessarily beating ourselves up and say how bad I am, but being able to give God the credit and pointing to God. So meekness is that quality of being peaceful and serene and humble and not insisting on your own way, and that's when Christ comes, is when we are meek, when we are gentle, when we are mild, when we are humble, right? And here's I'm going to pull out the rando Bible verse of the day from the minor prophet Zephaniah.
Zephaniah. Yeah, we don't give Zephaniah a lot of airtime.
Zephaniah's like Titus of the New Testament, right? Or
Titus.
Jude, right?
Yes.
Zephaniah doesn't get much airplay.
Yeah.
But what Zephaniah is writing about, he's prophesying about, is about the future with God. So I'm giving you context to what you're going to read here. Is the future with God, and specifically about, in some ways what we understand in Revelation as the New Jerusalem. Like when God has settled all things, like what will life be like with God in the New Jerusalem. So this is Zephaniah chapter 3,
Verse 12.
Verse 12.
But I will leave within you the meek and the humble who trust in the name of the Lord.
And it says within you, meaning Jerusalem, like within the
Yeah.
walls of Jerusalem. So like this kind of this future prophecy of saying, you know, when all is said and done, you know, who's going to be living with God? The meek and the humble.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
And I've said this in different contexts before, but I want to practice that now so that when that day comes, it doesn't feel like foreign or like I'm trying to catch up or I got to fake it until I make it. Like all these things, it's just like I want to practice my faith because practice gets me ready for what's coming next. And so if I can practice humility, if I can practice meekness, that when I show up in heaven, it feels like home and not like, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I just want to walk in like, oh yeah, I've been expecting all of this, right? You know.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some astounding joy no matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
But I just want to be like, oh yeah, I worked on this in my life and worked out some of the junk so that when I get there, I'll be like, oh yeah, here we are, right? We're
Here
home.
we are. We're home.
And so Zephaniah really speaks to the fact that when meek souls receive him still, the dear Christ enters in, and he's like, because at the end, it is about the meek and the humble who are going to receive him, and he's going to welcome them home. And like I said, on Tuesday, I don't need to be like, well, before we let you in, you need to go in the conference room and wait for I don't need that, right?
Right.
Just want to go in. So.
Yes.
So there's that. And then, of course, my favorite line in the whole hymn, cast out our sin and enter in, be born in us today.
Yeah.
And you think about, I guess I think about that whole understanding of placing the birth of Christ at, 0 AD, or some people say, well, maybe it was 3 BC, but it doesn't matter. Christ being born at a certain place, a certain time, and that was one-time event. And Brooks reframes that to understand the growth of faith inside of us, that Christ is being born within us. And I really like that imagery.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
I love that imagery. That it's because it's what's happening today. Like this is happening today. That Christmas day is happening, born in us today.
And in a lot of ways, anybody who is new to the faith or comes back to the faith and embraces that ultimate love, right? The divine love, and it moves from here to here, right? It is not unlike the shepherds at the Christmas story, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this thing has happened. Oh, it's real. Oh, I get it. I went and checked it, and it's all there, and I've now seen the Christ. Then the shepherds go and see that. Let's go see this thing that the angels have talked about. They see it, and then they can't stop talking about it to everybody else. And the Christ was born in them, or it was made real to them. And somebody who's new to the faith or comes back to the faith, it is like Christ is being born in them in that moment, and that same joy. Now, Psalm 32. Listen to this, verse 1 and 2. Blessed are those whose transgressions are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the person whose sin the Lord does not count against them, and whose spirit there is no deceit. I like that deceit word because it means to hide stuff, and it says, for those who aren't hiding stuff, where there is no deceit. And just owning who you are and knowing that you're loved, and that God's favor rests on those blessed who ask for forgiveness, are forgiven, they are made new, and in some ways that is very much cast out our sin and enter in and be born in us today. And we heard this song a couple of weeks ago on Saturday night, that Christmas is every day when Jesus is close,
That's right? That's
right?
exactly right, yeah. It's not just a day, and it's not just even 12 days.
That's
It's
right.
every day.
When Jesus is close, it's always Christmas
Yep.
because we have that promise of forgiveness and new life, and the promise of we're not alone, nor will we ever be alone. So that's what we got to hold on to in these difficult times.
Yep.
In a lot of ways.
Yep.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us today. Don't forget, we got worship this weekend. We're going to start a new sermon series on building our spiritual foundations starting this weekend. And of course, it begins with Christ himself as the foundation or the rock of our lives. And then we're going to build on that foundation over the next few weeks. So we hope you can join us, whether that's Saturday night at 5 o'clock, Sunday morning, 8, 9:30, 11. All those times are Pacific time if you're somewhere outside of the state of Nevada or California. So we hope you can join us. But until then, God bless you. We love you. Take care. And Philip, will you play us out?